And welcome to Face for the Newsfirst team. I'm Niresh Aliathambi. If there is one common theme that has run throughout this presidential campaign, it is that every candidate is promising faithfully to wipe out corruption, to eradicate it entirely. But is it so easy to do? Why wasn't it done before if it was so easy? We've had so many regimes over the past 76 years or so since independence, and corruption has simply got worse. So is it so easy? To discuss this, we have with us a person who is no stranger to our programs, Mr. Upul Jayasuriya, President's Council, former President of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka. Welcome, Mr. Jayasuriya. Now,
thank you.
Mr. Jayasuriya, is it so easy to get rid of corruption? Is it simply a matter of electing a new president, a new parliament, a new cabinet of ministers, and then simply saying, from today, we're not going to allow corruption?
What's important in eradicating corruption is there must be a sincerity and also a commitment to fight corruption. Those who profess to be fighting corruption, if they themselves are into corruption in a big way, then I think there's nowhere that we can look for to fight corruption. So if I have to give some example in that regard, one might say that at this moment of time, there is not much of corruption. When I say not much, yes, there is no corruption now. There is only mega corruption that is taking place in this country. It's not a few $1 billion, it's billions of dollars that are being siphoned out of the coffers of this the government.
Money which we don't have.
What we don't have, these are money that are expected to be earned and then spent for some people or private individuals with the support of the powers that be, the ministers, politicians, and other people in power, in position and authority. And the Bribery Commission, Corruption Commission is muted. Because I say this with the authority. If I am to give just one example as far as Bribery Commission is concerned, there was a complaint that was made in 2011. I have said this even before. The Greek bond issue, the indictment was forwarded and filed in court only in 2024. Even that again there was some discrepancy and they had to withdraw the indictment and the accused was discharged, and now I am made to understand they have filed it again. But there are about nearly 40 odd cases in which for a mere technicality the accused were discharged, but they can be charged again. But none of them have been charged except maybe one or two. But at some point of time, then they forwarded the indictment by the Bribery and Corruption Commission. They were satisfied that there was a case for them to be charged in a court of law. So just because they were discharged on a technical point for the reason that the 3 commissioners have not signed, that's mostly the case, you can't just forget about it. You can't just say, no, they are discharged and we are not going to take any more action. So these cases have to be filed again. One of the glaring examples, if I'm directly come to another glaring example of
and we have many examples in this country.
Many examples. You know, I can't be talking too many. I'll just talk of one or two. Is the Lanka Transformers fraudulent deal. Now this company was originally owned by the CEB 63%. Balance 27% are owned by a Norwegian company called Lo & Bona, and another 10% has been given to a company called the Trust, Employee Share Ownership Trust of 10%. Then that trust of 10% was converted to a company. The trust doesn't provide for the trust property to be converted into a company, but it was so done. In the company, there are 3 employees, the 3 senior employees of the company have acquired, or rather not acquired, you can't use the word acquired, they own 60% of the shares of that company. Totally illegal.
So
for which they have not paid a cent.
Highly unusual.
Not unusual, it's a fraud for which they have not paid a cent. And that's not all. Then there was another, as I said, the 27% shares of Lanka Transformers that were owned by Bona, the Norwegian company, was transferred to another trust called Group Employee sort of the LTL. Now that 27%, at some point they wanted to quit. They offered to the JV partner, that is the CEB, for them to buy the share. They said, no, we don't want to buy the share, we have no money. And that was, at that time, CEB had the money to buy it. Anyway, they told the Lanka Transformers to do as they pleased. What did they do? They created this second trust and then took a loan from the NDB, some 500 million rupees, gave that money to that second trust and got them to buy the shares. Who was putting the money? Lanka Transformers. And they borrowed the money and then they had to pay the money. Now that company, having owned illegally, that trust also transferred to another company called Paradev. Now that company, 75% of the shares of that company is owned by 5 people. The 5 employees, senior most employees of the company. Now both together they are controlling 37%. Now when the situation was such, they also there was another the subsidiary called West Coast. West Coast was given by the CEB 28% shares of the 63% shareholding they had, for a bill that they said that they had to be paid 26 billion. Then they transferred these shares to the West Coast. That is also controlled by these 3 employees. Now this is not done by accident. Treasury knows about it, the ministers know about it, and they are just turning a blind eye, and then these people are siphoning the money. That doesn't mean that they are putting all the money into their pocket. The monies are all over the place, and now they are controlling 65% of the ownership of this company, and only 35% is controlled by the CEB. Now when all this happened, the corruption.
Just one clarification, Mr. Jayasuriya. Lanka Transformers Limited is it's not a small company. It's a company which is worth over
about 100 billion,
and it's highly profitable.
Highly profitable, so because according to their own statement made to the COPE, Committee on Public Enterprise, they have said 85% of their turnover is from overseas. But who is auditing this? Up to this date, no Auditor General has audited that. They have filed 2-3 cases and then withdrawn them later on, trying to get court orders to prevent the Auditor General from auditing. They were not successful in getting such orders, but be that as it may, still up to this date the Auditor General has not audited. Now when this happened in 2021 or 21, Mr. Vasanta Samarasinghe of the anti-corruption unit of the NPP, this is where the story begins. They filed a fundamental application in the Supreme Court and then went on till about 22 November. They filed a case, and all of a sudden I have the affidavit that they filed also. The first affirmant is Mr. Vasanta Samarasinghe. Right? And they said all these complaints that they made, at the time when they made this complaint, that they did not know that the CEB has done all the checks and balances that they ought to have carried out. Therefore, they are satisfied that everything is fine and tickety-boo. Therefore, they wanted to withdraw the case. What did the State Council?
Mr. Samarasinghe is of course not here.
No, I'm only talking about the affidavit.
Yes.
This affidavit from the Supreme Court record.
Right.
This affidavit from the Supreme Court record.
Authority. Yes.
Factually speak to them itself. Then what happened was the State Council who came to court, Mr. Vinitha Gunathilaka, he said point blank, usually the State Council comes and objects and asks for the dismissal of the application. But here he came and they said very clearly and categorically. He said, no, there has been a huge fraud in this company. This must be audited. It has not been audited, and this involves public property. Therefore, he is vehemently objecting to the withdrawal of this case. Didn't that kind of effort, at least a statement made by court by the state council, didn't that convince the petitioners to keep the case? I'm not making any assertion as to how much and why it happened, but I'm leaving to the intelligent public to decide why would this happen. We know why this kind of thing would happen. And finally, the same company was going for a public issue, and we filed a case from the SJB. We initiated 3 cases. In one case, we had to withdraw one case because there was pressure brought on one of the petitioners. And we also asked for orders from the Supreme Court to suspend this public issue, the initial public offer. And before the court made order, the stock exchange, Colombo Stock Exchange, came to court and informed court, yes, they have given them instructions to suspend the issue until all these matters are clarified. The matter will be supported in the near future. This is what is happening. Now let's take the visa issue, VFS scam. It's another multi-million scam, multi-million dollars. One would say it's over $1 billion. Now the offer that was made by the company to the Department of Immigration is not from VFS. But they never call open quotations or tenders the Immigration Department of the government of Sri Lanka. What happened was, there is some Indian company, unknown Indian company, that made an offer saying that we are going to do this with the support of the VFS. So the VFS in the agreement that has been signed is a service provider to the Indian company. Now, Indian company has had no experience in doing this. Now, one of the 3 main criteria of the services that we were going to, Sri Lanka was going to obtain in this regard were not being offered, which have been now provided by the Mobitel at a cost of just $1. They are not being provided by the scam or these companies through the tripartite agreement that have been signed. But that was given to the company, and it is costing $50 per passenger. $50 per passenger. This is running into billions of dollars. So there again, the SJB filed a case. We have zero tolerance on corruption. So we filed a case, and then finally the judges of the Supreme Court, 3 judges, gave a stay order to stop this entire transaction, and they ordered the immigration control to switch off the whole thing, but he didn't do that. As a result of that, the court has now ordered that he be charged for contempt.
So these are massive affairs which are going on, running into millions of dollars, which the country can ill afford right now. So how do you put a stop to things like this?
One might say that nothing will stop in this country until and unless you bring death penalty. There may be a lot of arguments about that, but at least there must be, as I said at the very beginning, there must be commitment and sincerity by the authorities. If the people who are supposed to be fighting corruption, they themselves are up to corruption, then where can we look for?
But the death penalty is hardly the answer, I'm
not advocating that, but
yeah.
I'm saying, just for the sake of saying, if there is death penalty imposed on 1 or 2 people, this is stop. But in the meantime, we are also proposing certain legal reforms, where we say that as far as fundamental rights concerned, whenever there is a violation of fundamental right, be it a politician, be it a minister, be it a public servant, maybe a police officer, if he is faulted by the Supreme Court having violated the rights of the people, he should and he shall cease to hold office. So that will put a deterrent on such officers and the politicians not to violate the rights of the people. And here recently there have been so many cases, including the case with regard to the holding of the local government elections, the court held that the rights have been violated by the state with regard to the postponement of the local government election. But His Excellency the President was heard to say, look, I'm very proud that I did not hold the elections. So he is proud that he has violated the constitutional rights of the people. So it cannot be the case. The people who have deprived the franchise of the people is now seeking the franchise of the people to be exercised in his favor. I mean, it doesn't make much sense.
So we've had so many scandals. We've had the Greek bond scandal, sugar scam, garlic scam, you name it, we seem to have it. Then there's the Sri Lankan Airlines Airbus scandal, but nothing seems to happen, Mr. Jayasuriya. And now we have all these presidential candidates who are promising the sun, the moon, the earth and the stars, but even when one of them wins this weekend and comes to and takes over office, is he going to investigate and prosecute all these? I really have my doubts, no matter which candidate comes to office.
I think there must be some effort to be made with regard to the transparent, not only transparent procedure and the enforcement of the legal provision that we have on the law book, and that should include an independent body, such as a monitoring body, to see that they do what they ought to do as per the law. Now let's take the Bribery and Corruption Commission. Now there are about few commissioners that are there on the commission, but when the public have a complaint to make with regard to the complaints that they have already made, we have proposed here, of course, that within 3 months every complaint should be investigated and completed. If you can't complete it, then you must obtain another 3 months from the nearest magistrate, and the indictment, if to be so forwarded, should be filed within 1 year from the date of the complaint. That kind of thing is there. But still, if it's not happening, then somebody should be able to ask a question, hey, what's happening? What have you done? This complaint has been made on this date. So that there should be a monitoring body comprising of honorable men. Our society is not short of such men. There are ex-judges, there are ex-senior public servants, there are very senior businessmen who don't, means they are worse as far as anti-corruption is concerned. So we must get them on board on a monitoring committee to see that they implement the law that they are required by the statute.
Well, I mean, that's all very well in theory, but what you are proposing is in effect a committee or a commission to monitor the bribery commission. This seems to be...
it might sound odd.
Not just odd, it's very difficult to describe this. It's like cloud cuckoo land, isn't it, where we have one commission after another monitoring each other, but the crooks seem to walk away scot-free laughing.
That kind of a monitoring committee, what I am proposing is it should not be a paid office. It should only be an honorary thing, where they impart their knowledge and the expertise in the implementation of these legal provisions. They should be able to call some file, because there is these secrecy clauses and all that. But this committee should be authorized to call for such file and then go into it and then ask the commissioner, what have you done with this? Have you been sleeping over it? Now take the Airbus deal that you were talking about. The company, the fact that the company has paid a bribe of $2 million.
The Airbus company.
In the Airbus company came to light not because they volunteered to give that statement. In some judicial proceedings that was held in USA, in the process, it came to light that they have paid this commission, and the names of the people to whom the commission has been paid revealed. But what happened thereafter? Now this news came, hit the headlines of Sri Lanka newspapers more than 5 years ago. I mean, it's not an indictment that is there existent with regard to the entire civil administration system that we have. In Japan, for instance, whatever the crime that you commit, be it murder or criminal offense or any fraud, anything like that, within 1 year the investigations are over, trial is completed and they are punished. 99% the punishment rate in Japan. But of course they don't just for nothing, they don't charge people. That's the process they have. But here in Sri Lanka, after trial and all that, because the investigations, most of the investigations are also not conducted by people who have expert knowledge in the field. Now with the IT and AI that are coming in, people can easily hoodwink the poor police constable who know next to nothing about all these things. So we should have employed with the Bribery Commission, giving them the support that requires to be given through the independent bodies like the Chartered Accountants Institute, maybe the Bar Association, maybe the Retired Judges Association. They must be able to be drawn in seeking their advice from time to time. Without which, and also the Bribery Commission should also be given all the modern technical equipment. There are the technicalities or other technical equipment that can record a conversation maybe 100 meters or 200 meters away. Now, I don't think they have even a pocket dictaphone. So, without bringing these in the technicalities or the modern equipment into our system of law enforcement, I don't think we can be seriously talking about eradicating corruption.
But Mr. Jayasuriya, I've heard this argument many times from many people that the Bribery Commission doesn't have the personnel who have the expertise, the CID doesn't have enough expertise, and so on and so forth. But is it really so difficult? We live in a country where we have so many accountants per capita, one of the highest in the world, CIMA qualified and so on. So you can easily hire an accountant, and that's what you need. You need to find the rupees and cents of these scandals, and then of course you need prosecutors, and for that you have the Attorney General's department. Is it so difficult? Because I would think that investigating a murder would be much more difficult than something like this, because here we simply need to hand it over to people who have knowledge in accountancy, in how white collar crime is carried out. Whereas if there has been a murder committed, it's much more difficult to find, because you have to find motives and you have to find the murder weapons and so on and so forth. But our police seem to be quite good at solving those crimes, but not when it comes to multi-million-dollar white collar crime.
It is not the deficiency of the intelligence of our investigators, but at certain instances they need some inputs like the accountancy and accountants and so on. But the issue is whether, number one, whether we have sufficient number of people, because large number of complaints are piling up at the commission. They can't be taking months or Sundays in having these investigations going on. That's why we are proposing these changes with regard to 3 months rule. So now take for instance, even the most complicated murder case has been solved by our investigators within a matter of just few days sometimes, few days. But they must be given all the support services, without which we are just tying their feet and then asking them to run a marathon, which can't happen. We must be, whatever the funds that should be required must be made available. Sometimes even to lay a trap, they have to get the funds from the treasury. They don't have the notes, the amount of money. I know in one case where the offer was 20 million rupees. They were faced with, the Bribery Commissioner faced with a huge problem. If you ask for 20 million rupees from the treasury, the news might go, and the perpetrator also may get the news that they are asking for 20 million rupees. Now, the bribe that he has asked is also 20 million rupees. So therefore, he will put 2 and 2 together, and then he'll get into a shell. So they had to ask for 30 billion rupees instead of 20 billion rupees. So like that there are issues. But right at the moment, my biggest problem that we have is this country has, the society has, is not that the police are inefficient or they do not have the intelligence to do this thing. Yes, they can be supplemented with all the other things that, as I said, with the knowledge coming from the various professional institutes and so on. The biggest issue that we have is number one is we are short of personnel. We have half the police force have been deployed by for the VIP security.
But again, that's a procedural situation. So
we don't do that because they don't want the private commission to go on with it. Look at the number of cases that are there against the politicians. We are also proposing that there should be a special court set up to try politically sensitive people. So that, and these cases should be taken day to day before a bench of 3 High Court judges. And if you are short of High Court judges, you can take the retired High Court judges. If they are short of High Courts, you can have double session. If you are short of stenographers and whatever, employ the modern system of recording the evidence, and then they can take home and then even transcribe it later on. So these are things, these are not excuses that can be tolerated. They must be given whatever they want. If we say, we have heard this banner headline called zero tolerance. But when did we have zero tolerance? We never had zero tolerance. The biggest problem that we have is, why are we not getting investments coming to this country? From the time that the investor comes into the country and until he goes round the circle, everywhere he goes, if it's a infrastructure project, about 25, 26 approvals he has to go and obtain. Everywhere he goes, he asks for a bribe. So the problem is, now when I was at the BOI, I found there were more than 15 companies who have signed the agreements had to be terminated because they were unable to perform. They were unable to implement the proposal or the agreement that they have signed. So they had to, as a result of which, even to come to that point of cancellation, they have spent a fair amount of money. So they have just given it up and then gone. So we have to cancel 15 to 20 agreements a month. I don't think even the figures are any different even today.
That's quite a lot to digest, Mr. Jayasuriya, and we will continue this discussion in a few minutes, right after this commercial break.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
Are you ready? Sri Lanka, tomorrow's the day to let your voice shine bright. In Ampara, we're searching, could it be you? Are you ready? Sri Lanka.
Tomorrow's the day to let your voice shine bright.
Welcome back to Face to Face. We are in conversation with President's Counsel Upul Jayasuriya. Mr. Jayasuriya, before the break, you were speaking of investors basically leaving the country because they can't perform, they can't get their projects started due to the high levels of corruption. I must note here that you are a former chairman of the Board of Investment of Sri Lanka, so you certainly speak with some authority. And you said 15 to 20 investors are being turned away or leaving every month. That's a staggering number. And when you think of the fact that those investors, the foreign investors who would be investing millions of dollars into the country, and what happened in 2022 is that Sri Lanka ran short of foreign exchange. So it's quite staggering that here on the one hand we have corruption which is driving away the foreign exchange, and on the other hand we had a forex shortage, a crisis which led to this madness of a economic debacle that we have been suffering for so many years now. So isn't this the strangest situation that you could imagine?
It is strange, more than strange, it is sad. It is the reality. The issue is when the authorities, they say the politicians are corrupt. Yes, some of them are corrupt, not all of them. The officials are corrupt, not all of them, some of them are corrupt. But wherever it goes and stops, the buck stops, then it doesn't move from there. So as a result of it, they get frustrated. And then the project is not implemented. As a result of which, then the situation that I just described, having to terminate the agreement, comes up. And also sometimes the people don't think practically. They always ask the question, why? They are not asking the question, why not? That's the problem. Now one of the reasons that I said was the lack of a shortage of police officials, the investigators. If you know that half the police force today of about 80,000, nearly 40,000 people are deployed for VIP security. So that is why we are proposing in the legal reform that every politician should be given only one guard. One guard. If you want more, then he can pay for it. Every politician will be given only one vehicle, not more. If you want more, he must pay for it, the cost. No free housing, no free electricity, no free lunches, nothing. They are all proposed in the SJB's proposals that are there. So even the President or the Prime Minister, he can't have an entourage. Ambulances and ambulance helicopter. You are going by air also, you have another helicopter going. But this is rubbish, no? I don't think it happens in any other country even. Right? If something happens to your helicopter that you are traveling, no other helicopter can come and rescue you. It happens and you are done. You are done. Nothing can happen. So even if that crashes, the other helicopter can only go and pick the debris. They will only know where it has crashed. So this is waste of public funds. If you take whenever they go about, they go in a motorcade. So this has to stop. This has to stop. We have proposed that. That's why we have said only one vehicle, nothing more. So now they are given housing. You don't pay rent. I mean, maybe some nominal 100, 200 rupees may be deducted. They are given vehicle licenses. That has to stop. No vehicle license will be given. Now the Canada of liberalizing the import of vehicles, I would think that's a ploy to give the licenses to the members of parliament. Right? They should not be given any license. They take the license on the basis that they are going to use import the vehicle and use it. What they do is they sell the license. That's a fraud. That's a fraud. They must be charged for corruption. But does the private commission charge them for corruption? They say no, they have been allowed by cabinet decision. Cabinet should not be allowed to propagate corruption. Surely, if they have done that, that is also corruption. The entire cabinet should be charged with that.
I think the theory behind the duty-free permits for members of parliament is that they are supposed to serve the people, so they require new vehicles and possibly four-wheel drive vehicles to reach their constituents in far-off villages. But then, as you said, if they just simply turn around and sell the permit, they are completely defeating the purpose, isn't it?
I can remember in 1977, in the Jayajawardena regime came into power, he gave a canvas-hood Mitsubishi Jeep. That makes some sense. And on a depreciated value, they were asked to pay for it over a period of time, which they paid. Something practical like that can be understandable and then can be comprehended, but not the kind of luxury vehicles. They are importing the best of the best, which even the people who are in business, who are earning 5-figure, 6-figure salaries, find it difficult to afford those vehicles. And if you are serious in fighting corruption, look at these people, politicians. How many people are sending their children abroad for studies? How much money are they spending? Millions, right? Of course, every time whenever some private universities will open, or maybe medical colleges will be open, The JP has been at the forefront in getting all those children from the local medical schools, maybe the universities come on the road and object to it. Now I find that they are having it in their own manifesto that they are going to encourage private universities. I don't know whether they have in fact changed the policies or not, whether these are just canards for the purpose of making some people happy for the purpose of election. So there is no end to this problem that we are facing unless people are sincere in what they say that they want to do.
Now, Mr. Jayasuriya, you have mentioned the office of the independent public prosecutor that you would like to see set up. But once again, what is the guarantee of success? Because I remember in the regime of President Chandrika Kumaratunga, the bribery commission was launched with much fanfare. That was the panacea for all ills where corruption was concerned. But then we have seen over the past nearly 30 years that is simply another white elephant. So what's the guarantee that the independent public prosecutor would be effective as well?
This is for the purpose of expediting the investigations and the advice that the police should get from time to time from lawyers who know the technical issues with regard to a forwarding of indictment and getting them expedited. In the meantime, I think it was there in the proposal that we forwarded to the leader of the opposition, which he accepted wholesale, and that was on the 11th of February. I think some pages have been copied of our proposal by the NPP, and they have put this public prosecutors thing is also there in their proposal, but they have missed out another important part which was there, that is the public defender. Now, public prosecutor comes with the public defender, but that it is not there in the NPP proposal. Public defender is also every person should have the right to defend himself. So, in doing that, now say if it is a provincial issue with regard to, say, let's say Monragala, let's say Nuwareli, or maybe Matara, Hambantota district, there is a crime that has been committed. So if this is to be, if a person is been arrested wrongfully without any basis, now there were recently there were so many instances where people were arrested on the basis that they were in possession of drugs, but in fact they were planted on them. I mean, our rules are based on such a way that you can have a large number of people getting away, but not even one person getting in if he had not committed the crime. So, if now there are so many police atrocities and assaults and murders, cell deaths and all that. If there is a thing that is happening like that, they can't be expected to come to Colombo and then interview the Attorney General or file bail application and all that. That takes a lot of time. In the meantime, the man who is being assaulted will be dead by that time or mercilessly assaulted. Now, that was the case even in the case of Deshabandhu Tennakhon. There was a FR application that was filed and he was convicted or rather held to have violated the fundamental rights of the person for torturing. Now, in this kind of situation, the public defender should be able to contact the public prosecutor in the provinces and then he should be able to get relief. On the other hand, he should be able to expedite the process by getting all the statements recorded without having to wait for months or Sundays, and then for the indictment in next to nothing time.
Interesting indeed. But what you're proposing is a near complete overhaul of the justice system. You're talking about public prosecutors, defenders, overhauling the bribery commission, making massive changes within the police force, and also the court system. What is it that went wrong? Where did it go so wrong? Because I mean, this is the system which the British set up, and after that, well, the British set up such systems in many countries. So how is it that it went so wrong in our country?
Let's take it from the Easter bomb, which has been in the discussion by many people, mostly in the recent past. Easter bomb case, at the time when the 2019 government came into power, the investigators has completed most of the process. They knew where to catch and then where to arrest and all that. The whole thing was derailed by the people who were elected to power. Then this was going on, and then now it has been in abeyance for the last 4 or 5 years. Nothing had happened in that, because the investigators were changed. New people are brought in, but they didn't do any investigation, because that is what was expected of them, not to do the investigation. Now the political parties have gone and met the cardinal and then given the promise that they will be having this investigated, getting the foreign investigators into the process, and also sometimes foreign judges if necessary, and then so that the entire process can be accelerated. But then it's very sad, sometimes these false rumors and then false letters. I don't know, my good friend Mr. Riyansi Askuratna is supposed to have sent a letter to His Excellency the Malcolm Ranjit, the Cardinal, saying that there was this case of IGP Deshapanta Tennakoon, and his duties were stayed by the Supreme Court and prevented him from discharging his functions as the Inspector General of Police. And then recently 3 monks have filed an application in that same case, seeking to intervene to lift the suspension of the IGP's service. Then a letter has been sent saying that one of these priests is a laughing matter also, but not so laughing, sometimes you feel like crying. One of those priests has been seen on Mr. Sajid Premdas's stage, and Mr. Asukurat, my dear friend, he writes to the cardinal and says like this, that when this the priests have been seen on Mr. Premdas's stage, therefore he has doubts about Mr. Premdas's promise given to the Cardinal and the Catholic Church that he will be investigating with all due powers, and the investigation process, that he will be putting back on rail. Now, as far as that case with regard to this challenge the IGP's appointment, to begin with, this was appointed by the Constitutional Council. Constitutional Council has still one more vacancy. Now that could have been filled by the JP. They have not taken steps to fill that vacancy, number one. Number two, Mr. Sajid Premdas and Kabir Hashim are the only 2 people who voted against that appointment. And then when he was appointed, they filed an application. I appeared in that application. That application is still pending. It is in that application, and then 7 other applications, that one of which was also filed by His Eminence the Cardinal. The stay order was given suspending his services. So in that situation, if somebody is trying to intervene, well, Mr. Asukuratna himself can intervene and then ask to dismiss that intervention case, which we are doing anyway, officially. And this matter is coming up day after tomorrow in the afternoon in the Supreme Court, particularly when a matter is pending in the afternoon, in just maybe 24 hours time. You should not be writing this kind of letters, surely, and throwing out, I mean, just to get some political advantage to his preferred candidate. I don't think this is a kind of right thing that is expected of my friend.
Well, that's a lot of food for thought. So what you're saying is there are so many players who are using the justice system for political gain that it's become so convoluted now. So what's the way out? I still don't see any single candidate coming into office as president being able to sort out this corruption mess.
You're right. No single candidate can do it. It's only his team that can do it. Now, Arjuna Rantham was heard to say that, look, when I brought the World Cup, I didn't go and play the match myself. I went with the team and they did that. If Mr. Dissanayake, Anurakumar Dissanayake says that I will be playing the match with my team, which I will nominate after I am elected, That's what he has said. But whereas Mr. Premadasa says, look, I have my team, these are my team players, these are my best bowlers, these are my best batsmen, these are my fielders, all that he has named. The economic team, then the other people with regard to the law and order situation, all that he has got everything sorted out. So it's a matter of getting into action. For him to get into action, he must just get the ticket through. Once he is given the ticket by the people on the 21st, if that is done, then I'm sure he will have the team, and that such team is not found in any other candidate, with any other candidate, including Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe. What is the team that he has? He has a team of all these Lansas and Prasanna Rantungas. Come on, we all know their track record, Mahinda Nandas and all these people, Rohita Biguna. I mean, we know, everyone knows who their track record. When you just mention the name, people start laughing, right? So this is the difference. So the people who are with Mr. Andra Kumara Dissanayake, I have my respect for him. He's a nice gentleman. But the people who are there with him have no record at all. Some of them, Mr. Silla has gone to jail and come out. I don't know for what offence. He says publicly, I heard him saying that he has been in jail for about 7 years. But I don't know for what offence he has committed, and then what is the sentence that has been imposed on him. So the situation is that, if a person has been committed to jail by somebody, people don't look at that person with much enthusiasm. So here again, we have to look at the team, not just one player. We are not just electing one person. Yes, of course, technically we are electing one person, but we are electing that person if he is equipped with the team, necessary team, to fight this battle, not otherwise.
Now, Mr. Jayasuriya, one of the biggest problems that I see is that a large number of members of parliament are tainted with corruption. But we are likely to run into a general election within the next 3 months, where we would expect a large number of the existing members to be thrown out, to be ousted. And we might have 100 new members of parliament coming in from various parties. Does that offer some hope for the future?
I think yes, it would offer some hope for the future. In fact, in our proposal, we have also proposed that no member of parliament should be allowed to be in parliament consecutively or otherwise more than 3 times. What is the meaning of this? People get into parliament and they stay there for 45, 50 years. Aren't there any other people who are qualified to go and sit there in the parliament and make some contribution? They are not. I'm not insulting their age. They may get the experience. When Obama was to quit after 12 years of, rather 8 years of power as a president of the United States, he said, I'm fit enough to carry on with another maybe 4 years or maybe another 8 years. But there's a law in this country that prevents him from contesting again. Now this is what Mahinda Rajapaksa did. They tried to come for a 3rd time. So there must be some respect for the younger generation in this country. That is why we are proposing that such people more than 3 times should not be able to be there in the parliament. Because some people think that they are born to rule this country. Take for instance Rajapaksa. Take Mr. Wickremesinghe. He has been there in the parliament for the last maybe 48 years, I think. So is Mahinda Rajapaksa. There are so many other people. What is this madness? And so they get into the parliament, they sit in the parliament, or from the time they sit in the benches of the parliament, they are sleeping and snoring. Is that what we are electing them for? It has become a joke of the century. So let's put a stop to this. At least from the next election, I hope all parties should put forward people who are able to think and then implement some action that will bring this country from the rut that we are in today.
And on that note, I'm afraid we have run out of time. My thanks to Mr. Upul Jayasuriya, President's Council, for a scintillating discussion this evening. And thank you to you at home for watching. Don't go away, the news is coming up next. Have a good evening.